It's time for the Janet guide. I was originally going to sing the whole intro because that's sort of Janet's whole shtick. Looking back on it, that was not a good idea. With Janet's main attack, the thing you really got to get used to is right after you release a shot to start aiming your next shot. You should always do that. It should sort of become a reflex where right when you release a shot, you start dragging to aim the next shot. That just so you can guarantee you always have a max range shot available and at the ready, because that's what you're going to use a majority of the time. And if you're going to use a short range attack, well, you can always cancel the aim by sort of dragging the joystick back to the center or just dragging it across your entire body, and that's going to reset the length of the attack. So if you ever end up wanting to use a short range attack, you can quickly aim one that way, but as long as you pre-aim all your attacks, you're going to have a long range attack whenever you want. And that's the ideal situation when you're playing with Janet, because you typically just want to stay as far away from your opponents as possible while still being able to hit them. Another good thing about Janet's main attack that you can take advantage of is the fact that it's split into 4 different projectiles. So even if a large majority of your aiming line is hitting a wall, there is still probably going to be one projectile that goes past the wall and hits anyone there. So this means she's going to be pretty good at wall peeking and hitting around walls, which is useful in a lot of situations. And the 4 projectiles actually have a pretty good spread at long range, so it's going to be pretty easy to hit your shots compared to a lot of other brawlers with similar range to Janet. Typically in guide videos, I would calculate how far away you need to be from an opponent in order to guarantee a hit with an auto aim attack, but with Janet, since you have to drag to aim, if you want to hit anything farther than 4 tiles away from you, then the auto aim range for her is going to be just under 4 tiles, because if they're exactly at 4 tiles, then it could be walking away from you after you use the attack. And so if they move backwards during the time the attack is traveling, they would be more than 4 tiles away from you by the time it reaches them, so just under 4 tiles, and you can guarantee an auto aim. But honestly, there aren't really that many times where you need to think about that, because you're either directly on top of someone because you landed on them after your super, or you're just at long range. Just a Janet fun fact, I guess. And moving on to her super, which is an insanely good part of her kit. There's so many ways you can use the super to get value. And you want to make sure you're constantly thinking about all these uses over the course of the game, because whenever you get your super, you ideally want to use it as early as possible, since it's really easy to charge up your supers as Janet. It only takes 5 attacks, and fewer than that if you hit any bombs from your super. So you're gonna have a lot of supers, which a lot of the time will be used to, deal damage and finish off kills. But the threat of her super can also force your opponents to retreat and get them very far away from the position they want to be in. It can give you great positioning because you have 7 seconds to move wherever you want on the field. If you want to just drop down on someone and be aggressive and just burst them down with 3 of your attacks, you can totally do that. Or if you just want to move a bit farther up on the field, get near the gem mine, you can do that. And you can easily push opponents away, because if they stand directly below you, they're going to get hit by bombs, or they're going to get hit by a ton of burst damage once you land. And as you well know, the best part of her super is the fact that it gives you 6 seconds of invincibility. So you pick up 10 gems in gem grab that fell on the ground, you can easily get back to your spawn, and there's 6 seconds where your opponents can't touch you. And not only are you just invincible, but you can travel so far away that even when you do land, they still probably won't be able to hit you. Same goes for a mode like Bouncy. If you ever get a lot of stars, you're in a dangerous situation. It's not dangerous if you have your super charged up, because you just pop it and head back to your spawn, and there's no way your opponents can catch up to you unless they're also running a Janet. So just keep in mind all those different possibilities that you can use your super for. Obviously, as you practice, you'll get more familiar with it, and you'll have better instincts on when or when not to use your super. But typically, you want to use your super pretty soon after you get it, but the timing of it is very, very important. You don't always just want to use it immediately when you get it, because it won't always get a lot of value if you do that. There are a ton of situations where it does get a lot of value, but if you don't use it in those situations, Janet's gonna feel kind of bad when you play her, and she doesn't deserve that. So make sure you save your supers for the right moments. And particularly, you wanna wait until your opponents have taken some damage. They're fairly low on health, maybe not 1 bomb away from dying, but maybe if they have 1,000 or 2,000 health left. If you see 1 or multiple opponents in that situation, it's usually a good idea to use your super, go after them, and try to deal some damage, finish them off, or at least land directly next to them and then finish them off with 1 or 2 attacks if necessary. Now, if they have really high DPS at close range, then you only want to use your super on them if you can completely kill them, because you do not want to land right next to them, trust me. And in the situation where you do kill one of your opponents, and the rest of the people on your opponent's team have really high DPS and you don't want to land anywhere near them, you can always just turn around and head back right to where you started. So you can get in and get out. That's one way to do it. It all depends on what you see the situation to be. And luckily, you've got 6 seconds to analyze what's below you and whether or not it's safe to land in your enemy territory, or whether you should just head back to where you were and stay in a safe position when you land. but ideally you want to finish off kills with your super. People will retreat when they're at low health, so once you see them starting to do that, that's when you can pop your super and chase after them. Now the thing is, if it's just one person who isn't really threatened by your teammates at all, using your super on them probably won't get much value. And the reason is that you can dodge 100% of Janet's bombs fairly easily, or at least only get hit by one, and you can guarantee that you can only get hit by one. And the way to do this is literally to just dodge in a circle, because Janet's controls don't let you really hover around a single spot that easily. You have to go in a circle, and it takes a long time to come back to that same point after you travel around that circle. And so if opponents dodge in the exact same way by moving along that same exact circle, they can completely avoid every bomb. And there's honestly not a good way to play around this. You can either just stop going for that target and go for a different opponent, or you can sort of do like a figure 8 and come back around to that spot and try to catch your opponents off guard. But people who have experience playing against Janet's, and as time progresses, people get better at dodging Janet's super. And so if there's just a single person and you're trying to get one bomb off and your teammates aren't anywhere to help you out, you might not be able to get that bomb off. And so that's something you have to think about. You really want to go for opponents that are also in the range of your teammates. That way your teammates can help you out. And if this one person is just dodging in a circle, well, sure, they might dodge the Janet's bombs, but your teammates will be able to easily predict where they're going to move and finish them off. So her super with the right teammates is very, very strong, but you have to make sure your teammates are there to help force your opponents between a rock and a hard place. Otherwise, they just spin in a circle, and it's kind of frustrating when that happens. As far as her gadget goes, you typically just want to place this in as aggressive of a position as you can, such that your opponents won't be able to take it out for a long period of time. You really just want it to be up for a long period of time, no matter what, because it gives you so much area control because people are scared to step in it. Now, if your opponents are running throwers and stuff, then it's kind of hard to put it anywhere, and so you basically just want to use it as a blocker for high DPS projectiles like, your Pipers, your Surges. Anytime there's a really heavy projectile coming at you, you can just throw it in front of you right before it hits you and block that damage. And yeah, that's basically all you need to know about Janet.